Stupid bloody Zoom.
Whiteboard.
Yep, thank you.
Just looking at.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. Can you hear me clearly, Steve?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. We will get started very shortly. As in, we will get started in about a minute. Thank you. Yes. Big wins, big wins. Wow, we've got to win it yet, but yes, we are finalists in the Global Search Awards. So yeah, big hat off to our team. All right, so let's get started and people can jump in as they come in. Just share my screen here. All right, hopefully everyone can see that properly and you're not seeing my file manager open. So I always like to start with statistics and why we're actually bothering to do this. So this is one reason why 63% of buyers say that thought leadership is important in providing proof that an organization genuinely understands their specific business challenges. Most small businesses haven't even considered content promotion or digital PR in their marketing strategy. So a lot of people will say content is king, but they create the content and that's about as far as they go. And then we've got content and links are the top two most important factors for ranking in Google. So while ranking in Google isn't the fundamental part of why we're trying to do this, we're trying to get more traffic, we're trying to get more leads. Those are the key metrics that we're after. Ranking in Google does help with that. So a little bit about me. I built my first website in 1998. We are globally recognized, being in the top 25 best SEO companies worldwide, and we are finalists. We were last year and we are again this year for the Global Search Awards. I'm a recurrent judge for the Australian Web Awards as well. And in the last 4 years, we've made clients about 15 million in added revenue. So that's pretty good. So just looking at what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be looking at defining what content promotion actually is, why we even bother doing it, how you can do it, and the strategy that we implement that tends to work quite effectively for us and our clients. So what is content promotion? It's basically it's what it sounds like. It's the process of distributing blog posts and other resources via both paid and organic channels. We focus on the organic channels, but you can utilize advertising to get your content out there as well. Usually you see this in the form of lead magnets, and that's generally what you see. You don't see a lot of blog content being advertised, but I'm not saying that that's not what you shouldn't be doing either. So why do we do content promotion? One of the biggest reasons that we do it is because of the links. So basically a website will link back to your website, and that will sort of give Google an indication that the website that's linking to you trusts your website enough to provide you with a link. So the higher quality that website that is linking to you is, the more weight that link and that trust has. So how do you do it? That's where we're going to spend most of our time today. So one of the most commonly known ways of promoting your content is through guest posts. So this is where you actually approach a website and a website owner, usually a blogger, and say, I can write content for you. And if you post it on your website, you'll usually, within that content, you'll put a link in the content that is related to yours. If you're doing it well, you will link that content to a content piece of yours. But usually what we find is they'll usually link it to the homepage through the author panel. We prefer not to do guest posts because it's so overutilized, but they do still work. Google does tend to be a bit vague as to whether or not they like this. Some will say, sometimes they say they don't like guest posts, other times they say they do like guest posts. I think that it really depends on the quality of the post and why you're doing it. If you're adding value to their audience, then it's not really an issue. Whereas if you're just posting content for content's sake, regardless of where that content is posted, you're just wasting everyone's time. Next, we've got infographics. So this is probably one of our favorites. So you basically create an infographic with statistics in it or processes in it, and oh, good, Kim. And then you spread that throughout social media. You get in touch with bloggers and associations and relevant thought leaders, and just show them the infographic, or you show them the blog post that the infographic is attached to. And then sometimes they'll like the infographic so much that they will link to the infographic, or they will ask to use the infographic on one of their posts, which they will then link back to your website. Next, we've got leveraging broken links, not missing links, but broken links, just to clarify there. So basically there's two things here. The first is you can have links on your website that are broken, which you want to go in and fix those, so that if someone's linking to something that's broken, it's only a matter of time before they will go in and just remove that link from your website, because it's not adding any value and it's actually of detriment to their website. The other thing is in other websites that you can go and look at. So if you're looking at, say, medium.com or Business Insider or wherever else you might be looking at that's relevant to your specific industry, you can have a look through and try and see if you can find some broken links. There are tools that make this job easier. SEMrush is one of those. And it's just a matter of finding something that is relevant to your content that they have a broken link for. And one of the things that we actually do, we cheat a little bit. So we go through, find these broken links, and then we'll write content, so long as it's relevant, that will fill in that broken link. And then we just pitch them the content and we go, look, this is broken. Here's some content that can replace it. And it's a no-brainer for them. It's basically, that's SEMrush. We use Ahrefs as well, but SEMrush is basically, you can have a free version of that. It is very limited, whereas Ahrefs doesn't offer that. So that's why I generally, for this sort of thing, recommend SEMrush, because it's not of value for you to pay for Ahrefs. We do, but it makes sense for us too. But it makes a lot of sense. If you're adding value to their website by removing those broken links, they're definitely going to be linking to your content. Then we've got reverse engineering. So we go to your main competitors and we look at what links they have. So sometimes it's good. You find some good links in there. Sometimes you find a lot of rubbish. But it's just a matter of sifting through those links. And the theory is that basically if someone is willing to link to your competition, then they're willing to link to you as well. And what we do is often when we find that they're linking to our competitors' content, we will go and write a better blog post and offer that to them. That way, there's reason for them to link to us. And half of the time, they'll actually remove the link from our competitor and give it to us because the content's better. It's more in-depth, it's more thoroughly covered. Something that I don't generally like, but it's still a strategy that you can utilize, is a link roundup. So I get them from an SEO tool called Moz. I'll show you what that looks like. Just give me a second. But it is what they sound like. So it's basically just pulling a whole heap of content together and then sending that out as either a blog post, or it can be an email like what Moz does for us. So basically we get this email through and it's just got all of this content here. So sometimes this can be in the form of a blog post as well. You've probably seen it as like the top 10 reasons. Well, here's 110. This is a perfect example, actually. This would be a link roundup too. So 110 top SEO tools that are 100% free. And they're actually linking out to Google Analytics. They're linking out to Google Data Studio, Keyword Hero. So this would be a link roundup as well. And then unlinked brand mentions. So this one is pretty straightforward. If someone mentions Foodie Shots, for example, or Digimarc in my case, you can reach out to them and say, look, really happy that you mentioned our brand. Do you mind if you just link back to our website? It's a no-brainer for them, really. They're already mentioning you within their content. So it's just a matter of just reaching out. Yeah, how do you find out that it's been mentioned? One of the most commonly missed tools in the Google suite is Google Alerts. So if you go to Google Alerts, you can actually put in an alert for your brand name. I actually found out that Digimarc is a brand for electrical goods as well through Google Alerts. So there's lots of fans that people buy that is the Digimarc fan. I was after different fans, but yeah. And then there's editorial links. So these ones are more difficult to get, but this is where the digital PR stuff really comes in, where you have a press release or you have a blog post that's really good, and you basically offer them that blog post and say, look, I thought that your audience might like this. We thought that it would go well as a link from this particular blog post to the blog post that we've created. So maybe they've written a recipe just going down the Foodie Shots avenue. They've written a recipe about baking chicken. And then you've got a recipe on baking chicken wings. and you can send through that recipe to them and say, look, we've created this blog post that is a chicken wing recipe. You mentioned that in baking chicken that you can actually bake chicken wings as well. So we thought that this would be a good follow-on from that. So then it adds more value to their content because it gives their audience something a little bit more. This is harder to do though, because you're not particularly adding specific value to them. It's more referred value, whereas the guest post is more direct, or their broken links, that's more direct, whereas this is more work for them. So it's a little bit harder. That content really needs to be very good. And then there's our strategy, which is statistics posts. So we've had a lot of success with statistics posts lately. What we do is we basically research a topic, grab a lot of statistics around that, post them into, put them into the blog post, and then share that in the same way that we would to acquire editorial links. So we reach out to various different people that would be interested in this sort of post, and we highlight it. We basically say, this is the research that we've done, this is what we found. And because it is statistics based, because they can see the research that's gone into it, they do tend to be a little bit more open to this, rather than the standard listicle type content or the how-to content. It's something that they don't see as often when they're being pitched content. And that is today's session. So I've left plenty of time for questions, because I know that this is a pretty big topic, and I just wanted to spend a good portion of time just answering your questions that you might have. So yeah, just going back to the question that Kim had, if you send it out and it's okay, I will ask.
I'm here, Steve.
Can you just elaborate on what you mean there?
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Hey, Steve and Kat. So the question that I had at the beginning was about putting a blog post on more than one space. So you've got a blog, it's a fairly good blog, or it might not be a very good blog, but it's interesting, and you share that on my page, and because it's about food, Kat shares it, and because you love the chicken wings, you share it. So I've heard several people say that's not good. Google doesn't like it. So you're sort of reinforcing that a little bit earlier, that, yeah, who knows what the real story is there. We don't really know. But then we come down to now where you're talking about the statistic post and encouraging us to send that out to Kat and yourself because you're interested in that subject. I'm just confused. As always, Steve, help me understand.
Sure. So let's bring that back to defining what I mean by sending that out. So there's a couple of things there. There's a topic called syndication, which I'll cover shortly. And then there's sending out a pitch email. So when we create a statistics post, for example, we will then research who would be interested in that particular piece of content. And then we send them an email that says, hey, we put together this piece of research, or it covers this, and this. And we found that statistically, this is the case. And then we send them a link to that blog post, which we've got on our website. So when we're doing content promotion, that's what we're talking about, unless we're talking about guest posts, and that's very different. That's where we create a piece of content and then we give that piece of content to the website owner, and then they post it on their website, but we never use that on our website. it just has a link within that content that goes back to our website.
So
Then there's-
statistic posts are resources that your clients can use, and you never post them on your own website.
The statistics posts we do, yes.
Yeah. The guest post, you don't. Which one don't you post?
The guest post, yeah. The guest post goes on to the website owners that we're sending it through to.
Okay.
And then there's the idea of syndication. So I don't like syndication. Google hates syndication, but it is something that does happen from time to time, and some people will recommend it. I don't. I just want to make that perfectly clear. And that's where you write a blog post on your website, and then you take that blog post and you put it on BuzzSumo, for example, and then you put it on LinkedIn, and then you put it on as a LinkedIn, not a LinkedIn post so much as within the article section. So you take the exact same article and you put it into LinkedIn Pulse, I think it's called. And then you put it into, there used to be Delicious was another one that you would use, and all these different social bookmarking websites. You basically just go through and create the same blog posts throughout all of them with links back to that original blog post. You can do that. I'd recommend that you don't, because it doesn't add any value. It's better to write a little bit and then link back to that original piece of content rather than duplicating the entire blog post.
Yep.
And it looked like you were going to say something there, Kat.
No, you just answered it.
Yep, cool. Does that clarify things a little bit more, Kim?
Yeah, no, that's good. I understand that. So how do you feel about basically, if you're doing a once a month blog, integrating that and making your blog your newsletter as well, so that it becomes a blog letter instead of a newsletter?
That is one thing that you could do. Generally, it defeats the purpose of sending them to the blog. You can have, similar to what we were talking about with syndication, you can have a small portion of that blog post within that newsletter and then send them through to that blog post.
Yep.
That's generally the way that I would recommend that you do it. Whereas like if you're writing content that's enough to fit into an email, you're probably not covering the topic in depth enough.
Yep. Thanks for that.
Any other questions?
I do, but I feel like a hog because the other one is good blogs, bad blogs. I know that you we had a session not long ago and we're talking about it, but it just keeps on coming up that, oh, that's a good blog, that's a bad blog. And it's like, and it's SEO rich or it's not SEO rich. Can you just help me understand that a bit better?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that go into this, and a lot of it's done, a lot of it uses old school SEO when you go and look at the information that's available. Now we're not really talking about keyword densities and that sort of thing. We're not really talking about word count either. It's a matter of addressing the topic in such a way that when the person searches for a particular solution to their problem and they click on your content piece, that when they leave that content piece, they don't have any other questions that they might be asking. You cover that so in depth that they don't need to go back to Google search and continue searching for an answer. that's really where we're focusing on content optimization, making sure that the topic is just covered so well that they don't need to go back and search for more answers. We also want to make sure that it's easy to read. So that's why we start to structure it with different headings. So you've got the heading 1, which is the title, the heading 2, which are the various different subtitles, and then heading 3 and so on as it's relevant, so that it starts to look like a Russian doll, where you've got, you open up one and then in there's the next one, and then you open that one up and then there's the next doll in there, and they all fit inside of each other.
Yep.
On that, Steve, so the H1 title, so say 10 ways to improve your food photography. That would be obviously a H1.
Yep.
And then say you've got color, lighting, composition, props. So they would all be H2s, because you would
Yes.
discuss each one. Where in the context would H3 come in?
Where it makes sense to put it in. So each of the headings have the same, so a heading 1 will have the same weight as another heading 1. And then a heading 2 will have the same weight as another heading 2. So if there's a subheading within color, so maybe you've got the different types of colors, and then you've got blue and then gray and then green and then so on, those would be heading 3s within the types of color. And then types of photography, you could go down into the various different types of photography and then the different styles. And obviously I don't know a lot about photography. That's why you're here.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Any other questions about these?
No, that's good.
Good.
Nope, all good.
Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Yep, clear.
All right. Well, we might finish it there.
Thanks, Steve. As always.
Thank you, Steve. That was great.
Great.